Hello, today we're continuing our unit on printmaking. We're going to kind of review what we started last time we met. The last time we met, we talked about the different kinds of patterns that we use when we're printmaking. We also saw how to create a stamp using a foam that you can cut and make into a stamp. So today we're going to continue by showing you what those designs look like, and then we're also going to go into how to create a stamp using safety cut or linoleum. So we're going to start off by reviewing the different types of patterns that we looked at. Now, one thing we did not talk about last week was just a basic repeated pattern. And a basic repeated pattern is something like this. This is a design that was done by a student, and it's just a real simple letter. I told the students to create something that had to do with their name, and this person did their first, the letter of their first name. This is the actual stamp that was made out of linoleum that the student cut. So this is actually a copy, and I reduced it a little bit so you could see the whole design. But basically, this is just a repeated pattern, and they just stamped over and over again exactly the same way with no changes whatsoever at all. It actually does create a really nice design. This is a real basic design, but it's pretty interesting. Another example of that real basic repeated pattern would be this one. This was done by a student, and it's just a real simple design. It's a spiral. In this case, it's a line design that's a spiral. This particular student did not use a stamp pad. They made their stamper, and then the color they used was a marker. So they basically just colored their stamper with a marker and repeated the design over and over again. Now, I don't think they're all going in the same direction, but they're so similar that the result is pretty much a repeated pattern. We're going to talk next about the alternating pattern. Last week when we did this, I showed you the beginning of an alternating pattern, and this is what it looks like when it's finished. This is the completed design. It's kind of hard to see before you add color, but this is a simple A-B pattern. So it's A, B, A, B, A, B. And then the second row starts with B, A, B, A. And it continues that way all the way down. The goal here is to get a nice even pattern with a clear stamp, a clear print, and that's what we're looking for on this one. This is alternating. This is another example of an alternating pattern. This one was done with a linoleum. This is actually easy cut, not real linoleum. This might be the actual print, the actual stamp, I'm not sure. But this was basically an A-B pattern. Now they also alternated by turning the direction of the stamp each time they printed, but a very simple pattern. This is moving more into the proficient range. This is one that's got the color added to it, so you can see the color makes a big difference, but basically an alternating pattern. This is a simple cutout heart shape made out of the foam on the corrugated cardboard, and on this one the heart is vertical, on this one it's horizontal. Vertical, horizontal. Now they changed the direction of the heart on this particular row, but you still get that same repeated pattern. And then when the student added color to this, you really get that repetition of A, B, A, B. So they're all good examples, but that is alternating. The next one we're going to talk about is the rotational. We started that last time, and this is what it looks like when it's finished. And with the rotational pattern, you're basically rotating the design one turn in a quadrant. Each time you change it, you're making one full turn until you're finished with a quadrant. So if you were looking at a large example of that, if I have 4 stamp designs and I turn them all in the same direction, basically like this, my first one's going to go like this. My next one's going to take one turn. Let me move this down a little bit so you can see it better. My next one's going to take another turn, and my last one's going to take a turn like that. Looks like I've got 2 of them here going in the wrong direction. They go like this. That is a rotational turn, and they all have the same center. So that creates a whole new design when you put it on that way. That's rotational turn. And some examples of that are this one, and this was done with a marker also. The student just took one little stamper, that's not it, but that's a similar one, and just turned it, one turn each time, and stamped with it. And here's another one. This is done with an easy cut, and it's a simple rotational design. And you can probably see by looking at this that these two patterns, the leaves have the top of the leaf pointing to the middle, and these two patterns have the stem of the leaf pointing to the middle. So it's alternating and rotational. The last design is a border design, and that's basically when you print a design around the border or the edge, and then there's a different print right in the middle. Regardless of what size your paper is, you're going to have an outside border and then an inside design. So that's a border. And an example of a border design done with Easy Cut is this one, and you can see that we've got one design on the outside and then alternated it with another design on the inside. And this one is also a rotational print, but this is a border design. And here's one done in color. This is back to the foam that was cut and added to the corrugated cardboard. And you can see the repeated R shape makes the border, and then there's another design right in the middle. So those are our 4 different examples. We added the just simple repeated design. They kind of get more difficult as you go up. Now, one thing I do want to show you, this is an example of a good print and an example of a bad print. I call this a non-example and an example. A good print, the student has taken the stamp and applied even pressure to the 4 corners, the 4 sides, and right in the middle, and they lift up and they get a nice even print. It also requires that ink was evenly distributed on the stamper before printing with it. Now in this one, the person either did not press evenly, so there's no even pressure, and possibly that person didn't get enough ink to begin with on the stamper. So these are some of the things you want to work with and look at. Before you even begin your design, you will want to practice a few times to see how your design is going to look. Sometimes, this one is a good example. This was done by a student. It's the letter D. And the student left it, so I kind of worked on it a little bit more because I felt it had too much background space. So I cut out a few more pieces in the background and made the design a little bit more interesting. So that's why you always want to practice first. I'll go ahead and show you what this one looks like. This one is 2.5 by 2 inches. I'm sorry, 2.5 by 2.5 inches. This is safety cut, which is very similar to linoleum, but it's a little bit easier to cut. Trying to get even pressure. You can even look at the ink once you have it on there and see if it looks pretty even. And then press it on your paper. I lay it flat. I press all the corners, the sides, the middle. I don't want to smack it. I don't want to bang on it because I actually lose a little bit of control by doing that. I'm simply pressing. And then lift up, and there's my design. And you can see it's got a little bit more, I've got it upside down, but you can see it's got a little bit more interest when you add some background to it, or actually take away some of that. So there you go. For our next demonstration, I'll show you how to create a linoleum stamp. I'm actually, as I said, instead of linoleum, I'm going to be using the safety cut. It's very similar to linoleum, but much easier to cut. So stay tuned, and you'll see how to do that on the next presentation. Thank you very much.